Hey guys, Olaf here from LSE. So today we're gonna work on a tandem axle which I bought used, and it has to be shortened to fit underneath one of my trailers, which is a lot narrower. So here I'm pointing out the piece which I actually cut out. I didn't cut it out absolutely straight. I actually ran my saw a little bit at an angle because I had to do it freehand. And so since the wall, as you can see, is 3/16, and I said, okay, let me insert a tube into it, which is actually a 1/4 inch. So I had one laying around. I cut it from a foot into 2 pieces. Since it's a tandem axle, I need 2 pieces anyways. As you can see, it's a metal 4010, and that one I bought quite a while ago from an online vendor and didn't use it, and that was actually for a foundry build where I actually ended up using a different pipe and cut that to lengths. But so I had that laying around. As you can see, it's pretty much almost double the thickness, but as you can see already in the picture, this piece was actually made in the USA. You can see it on the pipe itself. And so what I'm going through there right now is trying to figure out how to cut it right, how to insert it right. It slides in pretty good. I had a couple issues when I actually tried to slide it into the axle piece, which you're actually going to see now me putting down. And so one of the problems I ran into was that on one side it was too easily sliding in, on the other one it was pretty much stuck, so I had to wiggle it back and forth with a wrench just to get it centered so it's evenly pretty much 3 inches into each direction within both tubes. And once I had that in, I was able then to measure from the outside spring face to the other outside spring face here, and to make sure that that is actually the width of the trailer, which you're going to see there on the right side. And so the piece which I cut out is a 6.25 inch, and that gave me exactly down to within a wiggle range of a 1/4 inch to have a perfect match underneath the trailer, which is perfect. So I just have to weld the brackets later on in, which is going to be a separate video, which is going to be coming up hopefully tomorrow. So as you can see there, I'm just going back, making sure, okay, it slides in nicely. Before I slide it in, I actually ran with a disc over it and got actually all that surface rust off, so that I had a very good weld beat and penetration to it. Even the 6010, actually I think I used the 6011, penetrates through rust no problem, but I still wanted to have less porosity as possible. So in that process, as you can see during the welding in a bit, I switched back and forth between welding rods. I used 70/18s 1/8, and I used 3/16s 60/11. For some odd reason, the 60/11 was working without a hinge, but the 70/18s I used, some of them seemed to have caught some moisture, so they weren't really burning right, so I had to swap out some sticks to actually then get the bead in correctly. So now you can see me here actually grinding down the end of each of the 4 tubes to have actually a nice groove where I can actually lay my beads in. I do a root path with a 60/11 first, and then I cap it off with 70/18s. During the process, I caught some porosity and so I had to grind some material back out and had to rerun it to avoid any porosity in it, and also an undercut happened to me because for some odd reason one of my helmets, the red one you're going to see me wearing in a little bit, had issues with the sun, and I noticed it a couple times when I was working outside that helmet is not putting the right darkness on for me, so it's either too dark and I can't see really where I'm welding, so I only see pretty much the weld itself glowing hot, but everything around it is very dark, so I can't really see where I'm running. So that caused me to actually get porosity in and also some undercut. So make sure when you do this that you get your right helmet and that you can ideally do the weld inside. If you can't do it, make sure that you have the right helmet for the job. So halfway through the first route passes, I actually had to switch the helmet over to one which has a fixed lens with a number 9 glass, which I have in there, and that actually let me see much clearer my weld puddle. I still had a couple of issues because I'm rusty when it comes down to welding pipe. I'm not doing it on a daily basis. I'm doing a lot of straights, verticals, overhead and stuff like that, but pipes is a whole different ball game. So I had a couple times where actually the weld puddle ran off and started running down the pipe. The pipe itself is also a very small diameter and was laying down, so a pipe welder will laugh at me because they do that on an everyday basis, but I don't. So I had to pretty much redo a couple of the welds there, so I had to grind it out, sand it down. And there you see the tape which I actually applied so that I get a half decent straight cut. For some odd reason when I actually saw it through. And I used a Milwaukee bandsaw for that, a small handheld. It started wandering off without me noticing it. So when you do that, don't just do it from looking above and just eyeballing it down like I did. If possible, put it actually into something which puts it all flat down so that you don't wander off. But for me it was fine since I had a tube in the tube, so that left me that the root can be a little thinner on occasion and a little wider on the other occasion without me burning through. 6011 is very violent, so if you don't really know how to do it, you can burn through steel with it very easily because it's so violent. But there you see pretty much I did the prep now, put the axles down, and now I was just sanding in the background the inserts off so that there was no surface rust anymore on it. And in a few you're going to see actually me inserting those. So when you do the preparation, take your time. And the whole project took me, I would say, close to 3 hours with all prep, going back and forth, and we had a very hot weather, I would say almost close to high 90s, if not even in triple digits. I was sweating, and you can see it actually when you look at my shirt. That's all sweat, that's not water. I sweat like a bullet there, and was miserable. But right now my garages where I normally do the work inside are full with all my equipment because I'm prepping actually to move to a new location. And so there you can see actually the inserts, and there you see it got stuck, so I had to hammer it down. On the other 3 ends it was just fitting in nicely and was loosely fitting, so it slid in good. Once I got it in, it took me a little bit just to adjust it. Then I realized, oh, it's sliding too much, so I had to grab actually an adjustable Allen wrench and hold the piece pretty much in mid-center. Since I only sanded the inner piece of the tube, so the centerpiece, was for me easy to determine when it was actually halfway in both ways. And then I was able to actually slide the axles together. When you do that with an insert or without, make sure that after that you brace it below so that you can actually do your tack welds perfectly straight. So what I used was another U channel which I had laying around, and clamp it. You're gonna see that here in a moment. I clamp it underneath. Right now I'm just measuring, making sure it's the correct length. And I noticed there was a little slight discrepancy, less than an eighth of an inch, so it was good for me. So now you see I brace it so that the pipe is really forced straight, because there's still a little tiny play within the tube which I inserted. So, and to eliminate that and to also stop warpage, just make sure that you have it straight. And there you see my ground clamp didn't really ground it correctly. But now you see me tack welding pretty much on 3 occasions it in place, and then I started running a bead with the 6011 to actually do the root. And once that root was pretty much, I would say 70% done, I released the clamp and moved to the other side. I had to restart the same process. If you wonder why the ground clamp has to be moved, it is because of the shackles. The shackles are not steel on steel. They are actually having nylon bushings in between, so the electricity is not flowing there. And so that's why I had to move the clamp from one axle to the other one. And as you can see here again, I just tacked it in place. Once it was tacked in place, and I did heavier tacks since I had the help of the inner tube. I just pretty much made sure everything was tacked right, and now I'm switching over to another 6011, and I'm running it on DC positive. The one I have, the 6011, you can actually run on AC or DC, positive, negative, doesn't matter. Some you can only run on certain polarities, so make sure that you use the right polarity when you're welding it. But the ones I have are pretty much capable of running on any polarity. So now I'm just doing my root pass with the 6011, get it all the way around, because I have some length restraints with my welding leads. I had to move the stuff always very close, and I wanted to keep it within the center of the video camera as well, so you guys can see what I'm actually doing. When you do pipe welding, you can see I follow with a stick around, and then you see me shielding off the sunlight glaring into my helmet, so that's where I screwed up some of the welds. Make sure that you follow the curvature of the pipe, and now I'll take you guys down, and you can see cleaned out a little bit the welds. Put you guys back on. So when you did your root pass, make sure that it's clear metal, no porosity, no encapsulation, no nothing in it, because now you come with the fill pass, which are 7018s, and 7018s do not like any dirt, rust whatsoever in it, so make sure that that one is perfectly clean. Otherwise your weld will fail eventually. So, and when you do a restart, make sure that you restart on your finished weld and draw back into the good paddle and pull it all the way around. And as you can see, I have a tight space there, so that's where I screwed up. Instead of unfolding, I just tried to get it started, but there you go. I had to move back quickly and then weld over it to restart a couple times, where the lead got stuck, or the electrode got stuck. But once I had it going and the temperature was up on the tube itself, it was very easy. Make sure that when you weld everything is clean, so that's why you see me brushing off the metal there. And first I didn't really notice it, why it was sticking and starting to stick too much, till I actually then started realizing, hey, wait a second, I can't really see where I'm going, and the helmet started to go too dark, so I couldn't really follow my weld too good. So that's why you see me screwing up here a couple times. I then changed over to one of my other helmets, which has a fixed lens in, which is a number 9. And with that I was able to see the welding puddle and also where I'm going actually a lot better, and didn't have as much of a big problem there. In between passes, make sure also that you clean your prior weld of all the slack off, so that you have a perfect smooth surface. So if you have undercuts or porosity, make sure that you get all that grinded out, otherwise your weld will not pass inspection. So because of that, I had to do a lot of grinding, as you can see, with a flat disc, and this flat disc actually was pretty old, so I just used it up and then put a new one on, which let me grind a lot faster. But now everything is clean and I'm pretty much getting ready for running my next bead. And there you saw, I just tried to weld the wrong axle again where the ground clamp was not attached to it, and I said, screw it, let me change over, quickly do the other one and do it in reverse. This time I got a little bit fresher and more dry 7018 rods, which were in the oven earlier, and that allowed me to weld a lot better. So make sure also that your welding rods are stored proper and doesn't get wet or rust on it. The ones I had first, I didn't notice it first, but then later I saw that actually it built up some rust on the stinger ends, where the stinger is clamping onto your electrode, and that meant there was water actually in my shielding material, which significantly impacts your weld. Now you see I've flipped everything back out, made the welds, the final welds, the cap pretty much a lot easier. And yep, ground clamp had its ground issue again, but there you go. And you see me, sometimes I stop and redo. It is because of the sun glaring. Even you don't see it really on camera, the sun was bright and shining out. And when you do pipe, one thing I forgot, you cannot drag out your puddle too wide, otherwise everything is just running away from you. So when you do pipe, just go stingers, don't weave, if you're not very familiar with it. I'm not, so I just ran stingers, and with that I avoided the porosities, I avoided undercuts, and got the job done just right. A little bit later you're going to see a little bit of an up close before I slide the axles underneath. But again, make sure that you take your time, and when a lead or electrode actually gets stuck on your object, don't just rip it off with the stinger attached. Get the stinger off first, wait till it cools, and then break it off. This way you don't have sparks going all over your object. And because when you do welding certification, those sparks, which are burn marks, inspectors don't like them at all. And so they can also pretty much damage your product to the point that you fail inspection and you don't get your certification. So now I got it all done to the point that I'm happy with it. The whole axle I have to pull out tomorrow and just paint it, because you see all the rust on there. I'm gonna use a Rust-Oleum paint on it and then slide it back under, but I just wanted to see if it fits underneath just fine. And the trailer is there on the right, as you can see, so if it's first I thought it's gonna be a little off, but no, it actually fits perfectly. And so tomorrow you're gonna see the next video. Hopefully by tomorrow I'm gonna have it uploaded. You see the video where I get actually the tandem axle hanger brackets welded on, and you seeing actually the axle in place, and also with the tires on, which the nuts for that, the lock nuts, are being shipped by Amazon, so they should be there tomorrow, hopefully, fingers crossed. But as you can see, I make use of a little trolley just to get the axle slide through from underneath the trailer so that I can adjust everything correctly and line it up proper. It's not its a final position, I still have to do a little bit of a calculation there to see where I put the dead center point of the axle. It was with a single axle right at 4 foot, but the trailer is only on the truck bed length 10 feet, plus then the nose has extra weight. So I'm tending more towards 4.5 feet from the rear end. But that's pretty much it. So as you can see now, the position, I just slid it underneath. But tomorrow I'm gonna weld the brackets in place and hopefully get this trailer back on the road. Thanks for watching, guys. Please rate and subscribe, and if you like to see different welding things or have other suggestions, please leave those in the comment section below. Thanks for watching, guys. Have a good one.